across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you, and happy Monday. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And coming up at midnight, Donald Trump has now confirmed that he would like to deport homegrown criminals to El Salvador's jails. Now, we've seen images of these jails before. They are literally just cages. They are cages with bunk beds. I think they're 5 high. Everybody has their head shaved there. We've seen the way that these men are treated. And by no means am I saying these are nice men, because if the courts in El Salvador are to be believed, these are bad people. But Bukele has he has arrested 84,000 people. So it's the nation's president, Nayib Bukele. Now, he was visiting Donald Trump today, and I don't know if you've heard the story about one of the Americans that were sent down to El Salvador, hundreds of them being accused of being Venezuelan gang members. Well, one of them, at least one of them, was an innocent man with the right to remain in America. And he was sent down there, they say, by an administrative error. But Trump says he's not bringing him back. And further to that, Bukele, the president of El Salvador, has now said, we're not sending him back. Now, that can only mean one thing, as far as I'm concerned, and there's no confirmation of this, but he's probably no longer alive. That's the only feasible explanation. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just send somebody back who was wrongly put there? This is absolutely despicable and disgusting. But anyway, these prisons are, we'll show you images later if you're watching on YouTube, but you've seen them. They're literally just cages. They are cages full of men. And what they've done is they've mixed them all up in the hope that these gang members will just kill each other. So they are pretty brutal places, but Bukele has said we have turned El Salvador into one of the most dangerous countries in the world, into one of the safest countries in the world. And when he got his word for that, of course, unless you're an innocent person with a tattoo, then it probably is still a very dangerous place. But I'm wondering how you would respond if our government were to say something as outrageous as Donald Trump has said about sending American citizens outside of America to do their time in these El Salvadorian hellholes. If Keir Starmer, I mean, I can't imagine ever happening, but if he suddenly said, yeah, actually, that's a good idea, why don't we deport our prisoners? Why don't we, it would be cheaper. It would be cheaper, and we can just get rid of them. You know, there are lots of countries around the world that would take British prisoners, I'm sure. But would you be concerned about that? Or would that be a deterrent? I mean, there you go. Could be the best deterrent ever, couldn't it? So anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about at midnight. So I look forward to hearing from you on that. And also at midnight, if you are watching, and if you're not watching, maybe get somewhere nearer YouTube or something, I'm going to introduce you to my new baby, who is called Humphrey Hosken, and he's a 9-week-old Shih Tzu puppy, and you've never seen anything. He looks like a teddy bear, basically. We're trying to get him to go to sleep at the moment. It's like having a proper baby, isn't it? Oh my goodness me. But anyway, so that's all coming up at midnight. Before that, John Boothman, our lovely Scotsman, will be here to take us through the newspapers for Tuesday, a political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland. We have a very special guest in this hour called Lucy McCaraha, who is an author, speaker and podcast host, and she is 70 years old and has just been published, got a podcast. She's saying it's never too late. It's never too late, so we're going to be chatting with her. Also, Vanessa D'Ambrosio will be here, our sports reporter, talking us through the weekend. And all of that is to come, so please don't go anywhere. Before that, as China has called on the US president to completely cancel the tariff regime, Trump has instead said that Chinese-made phones and electronics will now not be exempt from tariffs, but will be moving into a different levy bucket, whatever that means. So look, we know these tariffs are on, they're off, they're up, they're down. We don't know what's going on, and this uncertainty in the markets is what's causing all this chaos. If he just did one thing and stuck to it, maybe the markets would calm down and get used to it. He's now talking about putting levies on pharmaceuticals, so that any pharmaceuticals, and India particularly will be disadvantaged by this because they supply an awful lot of the sort of off-patent style drugs, antibiotics, painkillers, things like that. That have fallen off patent. So they supply those. And I keep wanting to ask Donald Trump, if you could produce those things cheaply in the US, why didn't you? Because he seems to be harking back to the 1940s, 1950s sort of manufacturing age, which will not work unless it's fully automated, is the only way. So it's certainly not going to be bringing back jobs. So what is going to happen with all of these tariffs? China has said they will never back down. They are not going to back down. There's a statement here that published in a book in 1922, Problem of China. The Chinese nation is the most patient in the world. It thinks of centuries as other nations think of decades. It is essentially indestructible and can afford to wait. And that's basically what China's saying. America only represents 15% of their exports. So if Donald Trump thinks he can push China, I think he's making a massive mistake, because that sentence, they've been around for 5,000 years, the Chinese nation. They're going to be around for 5,000 more. America, on the other hand, 250 years. So China is not for being pushed around. So what happens next? We've got tariffs coming from China to America of 125% and from America to China, or the other way around, of 145%. So what next? 200%? 300%? A big sell-off on the bond market again to bring Donald Trump to heel? Oh, and Donald Trump is now saying that he is able to predict the future, as markets reacted positively on Monday to well, we don't know if it was his decision or any decision to put smartphones and other electronics into different buckets. And he thinks he can predict the future. The fact that so much power, global financial power, is in the hands of one man, the whim of one man, without Congress, without anybody else having a say on it, is frankly shocking. It is shocking that this is allowed to happen. To discuss this and other things, Vicky Price, I'm delighted to say, joins me, Chief Economic Advisor for the Centre for Economics and Business Research. Vicky, thank you so much for joining me. It's always such a delight. Can I just first start with that point? This one man, the entire globe is at the whim of this one person. Did you ever imagine that he would have that much power to do what he's doing?
No, because of the way the system worked before, it looked like there were all sorts of ways in which things could be stopped, and with a lot of advice, perhaps, things that, in fact, the president did have powers to do. He didn't do, after all. Remember, he's got the ability to press the red button for nuclear war as well. But the reality is that the way that he has gone about it is those executive orders and the various decisions that he has made, he's managed to rely on various laws that have existed in the US for ages but have not necessarily been used. And those are emergency laws, which can be allowing the president to make the various decisions if there is an emergency, if there is something that's really important, threatening the existence of the US, and he can use those laws almost indiscriminately right now. There are a number of them, and we know which ones he uses. And while they are in place, Congress has very, very little ability to do anything very much at all. And even the judges who are deciding various things against Donald Trump then get cowed into dropping those cases against what he's doing. But look what's happened with the deportation one. You covered that yourself just now. So there is an order to bring this person back. Well, he's not coming back. It doesn't look like it. I don't know what's happened to him, but he's not coming back. So it is that issue. Now, the question is, how long can he use the special measures without being seriously challenged and challenged by the Congress, by the Democrats and the Republicans alike, to put a stop to that power? I think that's where we are now. And for the moment, nobody's really daring to do anything. But it is a bit of a surprise to all of us who really thought that the US was a democracy like many others. And it looks like his constitution allows the president to do a lot more than anyone had imagined.
It is really quite extraordinary, because he's like a puppet master now of our wealth, of the world's wealth. He just has to come out and say something shocking or something ridiculous, and we don't know what he's going to say about pharmaceuticals. That's going to definitely impact the Republic of Ireland, whatever he does, because he's livid that Eli Lilly and companies like that are based, or they've got a big strong holding there in the Republic of Ireland, and it's big business in Ireland for pharmaceuticals, and not to mention India and other countries that have already got tariffs on them of varying degrees, although he's now paused them for possibly 90 days, which, by the way, Vicky, is longer than he's been in power. Which is
That's absolutely true. But just remember that when you're talking about pharmaceuticals, of course, it matters a lot for the UK as a whole anyway, because if you look at what we export to the US, yes, there's been a lot of focus on cars, 25% tariffs. They're still there. Remember, what has come down is just the reciprocal tariffs that he had put in place in order to make up for what he believes is being charged against US products in various other countries. So there's a 10% basis, and then there are all these extra ones, which he imposed for just a few hours and then took them away, except, of course, for China. Pharmaceuticals are, from the UK, among the principal things that we sell to the US, in addition, as I said, to cars and chemical products as well. And that is actually likely to hurt quite significantly. So it's not, just, Ireland is going to be affected, but it is all India. But actually it matters for us as well. Now, it's not new. Just what I really must emphasize is that we've all been talking, every time we've been commenting on what's been happening on the tariff front in the last few weeks, we knew that pharmaceuticals was one of the areas that was being looked at. And the day that President Trump announced those reciprocal extra tariffs, he also signed another executive order which excluded pharmaceuticals for the time being, because he was looking at them again, and also excluded some energy products and excluded lumber. I think they do import rather a lot of wood into the US as well, strangely. So all those, mainly I think from Canada, but a lot of that was excluded for the time being. And of course, energy also from Canada. So pharmaceuticals was one that everyone was worried about. And what is going on right now in the EU, they are pressuring the Commission to do something about the regulations that exist on pharmaceuticals in Europe in order not to lose the whole of the pharmaceutical industry, which might just move to the US. And that's the real issue. I think it is causing enormous amount of concern among all sorts of industries, and a concern also about whether the rest of the world will remain competitive if the US decides to put, very, very strict tariffs against all the things that we hold dear, really, in many ways, and which have developed and have given a competitive advantage to Europe for a while and to other countries, and they may all disappear.
But we're looking at, if the pharmaceutical industry decided, because of the tariffs, to move to the US, that is not something that happens overnight. I mean, that is something that to set up the right factories, set up the right staff, to get the right people, you could be looking at 10 years to get all that in place and to get your supply chains in place and all of those things, not least to build a pharmaceutical grade factory. I just don't understand how he thinks it's going to be cheaper to make it in America than it is to import it from somewhere like India.
Well, it's not going to be cheaper. I mean, we know that. And what has been going on is that everyone has revised their inflation forecast up. If you look at inflation expectations in the US, they've gone up. There is a serious concern about whether interest rates, which should have been coming down because the economy was slowing down already before all that, whether they will come down the extent that they should do. And that's a concern. So the consumer is going to be hit. Businesses will be hit. The reason why we had this, A, the pause, and B, the exclusion from the extra tariffs of whether it was, whatever electronic things were coming in, but whether it was smartphones or whether it was computers, all the things that, of course, were going to be affecting what the consumer will be paying, but also profits of firms like Apple and others, is because businesses have been lobbying quite hard. So far, they weren't listened to, and now they're beginning to be listened to because that is happening as we speak, in the extent that people are seeing difficulty in terms of purchasing various things because prices are already going up, and also difficulty about ensuring that the profits of those firms will be sustained. This is why we also saw the markets do so badly last week and then recovering when that pause was first of all announced, and second, when the extra tariffs for the products that would be coming out of China and elsewhere, which are under this umbrella, if you like, of electronic goods such as computers and smartphones, are not going to be having a tariff for the time being, but they could have a levy later on, and that's the real uncertainty. So it's not going to be cheaper, it's going to be more expensive. However, the rest of the world cannot sit and say, well, look at what's going on in the US, we're fine, because if the US reduces its demand for goods, then everyone suffers. And if China, which sells quite a lot of its products to the US, of course, also suffers in terms of growth, then quite a lot of other countries in Southeast Asia and elsewhere are also going to be affected, including in Europe, where actually we were exporting quite a lot to China as well. Look at cars, for example. So it is an overall, dampener on growth, and I think the US will feel it probably more than many others, but China too, and I think the rest of the world as well.
But China, I mean, they've been out and about saying, first of all, J.D. Vance called us peasants. I mean, the diplomacy coming out of America is absolutely shocking and disgusting. So, they're pretty ticked off, and they're saying, look, we think in centuries, not in decades, mate. We will eat this bitter pill. There's even a Chinese phrase called "chiku," which is eating bitterness, meaning to suffer without complaint. They would rather suffer than give in to Trump. And Trump seems his ego is too big to give in to China. So what happens here, Vicky, with these two behemoths in the economy? What next?
Well, arguably, the fact that the tariffs on computers and smartphones have for the moment disappeared, if you like, suggests that perhaps Trump has blinked first. And even if there is going to be a levy for those products, it could be just like the levy on cars and the levy on pharmaceuticals, whatever that would be, which could be 25% like there is on steel and aluminium, which means that it would be a lot less than that it looked like just a few days ago. Remember, at the same time, what China has said is that it's going to stop exporting any rare earth minerals, which, of course, are incredibly important for the production of all sorts of goods that the US needs, particularly, of course, on the green side, where they put a huge amount of effort and money in the US under the previous administration, which is the Biden one, where they had this Inflation Reduction Act, which encouraged a lot of firms to go and produce there. So remember, this has been a bit of a continuation of what we had before. It's not new. It's just that it's become a little bit more extreme, and the way that it has been sort of implemented or announced rather than implemented, because if it gets announced, then it gets de-implemented, or it gets implemented, then de-implemented within a few hours, as I said earlier. That is the thing that has shocked the markets in particular.
And the business and the markets hate, more than anything, hate uncertainty. They'd rather there was a certain bad thing than uncertainty anywhere. But just very quickly before I let you go, Vicky, because this really interests me as well, is that many people are suggesting it was nothing to do with the stock market falling that brought Donald Trump to heel, but it was the bond market. And when you look at the amount of debt Britain owns of China, of the US, and China and South Korea and Japan and countries like that, it seems that there was a targeted sell-off to bring Donald Trump to heel. Could we see that happening again? He is in hock to a lot of countries that he is hacking off at the moment.
Yes, we don't know exactly why it happened, but there's no doubt that there was a sale of quite a heavy one of bonds, which therefore meant the yields went up, which meant that interest rates for borrowing by the government went up. But actually it affected the UK as well. Ours went up as well. They're now at the same levels as they were under the mini budget of Liz Truss. So we got a real problem as well. But there has also arguably been a real concern about whether the US was going to be growing in the future as it did before, whether it was a reliable, can one call it, partner for the future, whether it was the sort of country that you could turn to if everything else failed in terms of acquiring its assets. And that's no longer the case. However, things have stabilized a little bit. Bond yields have come down a little bit in the US, so maybe we've gone over that hump. So a lot will depend on what is announced next. So if we can move into a position of relative stability, then perhaps things will stabilize, but as well in the bond markets. If not, who knows?
I just love it. Depends what is announced next, how long it's announced for, whether it's retracted. Who knows these days? It must make your job extremely interesting at the moment. Vicky Price, always a joy. Thank you so much for joining me, Chief Economic Advisor at the Centre for Economics and Business Research.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and a good evening to you. This is Talk and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And like I said, at midnight, we're going to be talking about Trump's latest idea. His latest idea. He suggested that homegrown US citizens that are criminal could be deported to jails in El Salvador, saying that the US Attorney General is studying the laws right now. Now, he made the comment while speaking alongside Central American nation's President Bukele in the White House, Nayib Bukele. The Trump administration has sent hundreds of alleged, and this is the problem, that none of them saw any due process, alleged Venezuelan gang members to CICOT, which is a maximum security prison in El Salvador. Now, when asked about the deportations, which were briefly blocked, mind you, he was already on the way, Mr. Trump said, "I'd like to go a step further. We have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, hit elderly ladies on the back of the head when they're not looking." It's very specific, isn't it? It's a very specific crime. That are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the people to get out of the country. But what about international law that suggests that a citizen of a country is the problem of that country? He said, when pressed on the matter by a reporter, he replied, "They're as bad as anybody that comes in. We have bad ones too. I'm all for it." US Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was present at the meeting, is studying the laws, like she could study the laws, right now. If we can do that, that's good, he said. I'm talking about violent people, really bad people. We can do things with the president of El Salvador for less money and have great security. He does a great job with that. We have others, I presume, we're negotiating with too. So it just got me thinking, really, I cannot imagine that that would be possible, but hey, look, he's deported an innocent man to one of these prisons, and he said that he's not going to get him back. And in fact, Bukele has also said he's not sending him back. Very suspicious as to why they're not going to do that when they've been ordered by 3 levels of court in America to bring him home. Can you just imagine being wrongfully arrested in America right now and being sent out of country with no due process, potentially to die? I mean, I don't even know what's happening. I literally I'm stunned beyond belief on this. But I just wondered what you'd feel like if that was suggested here. Maybe you think it's a good idea. I mean, some of you believe that the death penalty should come back. So this is not that far, is it? Although it potentially is a death penalty, of course. But we've got a prison problem here. We've got no room in prisons now. They've got barely any cells left. They're expensive, 50 grand a year to keep in a prison. So would you endorse sending British citizens? Forget immigrants, people who aren't citizens, right? Because that muddies the water. But British citizens, would you support them being sent to an El Salvadorian hellhole? I'm sure Bukele would do a deal tomorrow. Give me a call. 0344 499 1000.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, and a very good evening to you. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And with me is our sports reporter, Vanessa D'Ambrosio. Hello.
Hello, Petrie.
You're looking all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Quiet weekend.
I've had another lap around the sun, so I'm just older and wiser.
Just older and wiser. That's right. Not older. Actually, not wiser. I'm not sure.
No, well, I don't know. I'll take the wins where I can. Brighter.
I think you should. Well, happy birthday for Saturday.
Thank you.
Right, Vanessa, somebody else who's very happy is Rory McIlroy.
Yes.
McIlroy.
Yeah. So, he's just won his first Grand Slam, so this is massive in golf. It means that he's won the Masters, which is the final piece to his puzzle to achieving this, and he's the first European to ever do this and the sixth person ever, so it's major. This is going down in the history books, and it's been this to and fro tournament of ups and downs. He sort of was saying like he would get like one good shot and then one bad shot. So it's been an emotional roller coaster for him, and it's been 14 years in the making.
Wow.
So when it comes to golf, it's not like we're at other tournaments where you have to sort of win something all at once. It's over your career span. So the last time he won another major tournament to go in this was 11 years ago, I think, 14 years ago. And it's just been this journey for him. And the funniest bit was the other day as well, was he had his daughter come onto this pitch and do this putt, and it was just the sweetest thing, his 4-year-old daughter.
Oh.
And she actually got it, and it's a really difficult course. Notoriously, this golf course is full of hills and lumps, and then you've got the winds and everything that plays a part. So you've got him on this roller coaster of emotions, his daughter stealing the show, and then at the very end, when he finally wins, this breakdown of emotion where he just crashes to the ground, and it's so beautiful to see people achieve that.
Crying and does he get anything? Does he get a special blazer?
Yeah, you get a green jacket when you win this specific the Augusta Nationals.
All of that for a blazer?
Yeah, I know. And you only get to wear it for a year, and then you have to give it back. So it's like, congratulations.
Yes, I love it.
But it is pretty remarkable. And something that I also thought that was really, really nice about just being in the moment was you're not allowed any phones at this tournament. Actually, a lot of the golf tournaments, they don't, but specifically the Augusta National is really strict for this. So there's no phones, obviously, because it interferes, but it also just keeps people locked into the moment.
Yeah.
And there was this beautiful picture that I saw, and I couldn't find it, but it was when LeBron James got his all-time record for the top scorer, right? And you've got him, and everybody's like this with their phone, trying to watch it through their phone instead of seeing literally history get made. And I think it really does detach you from that. And I remember someone saying to me once, what was it about sport that I liked? Because I get quite emotional, and it doesn't really matter what it is. And I said, well, you're there on people's journey. Like, you see them achieve their life's work in these moments, and sometimes they face a lot of adversity too, but you're all like in this like synchronicity, and that's when you see everyone tear up and get emotional. And the amount of news coverage that I've seen today of people talk about how they were so emotional seeing him achieve that. He's such a nice guy, but history get made, probably going to get a knighthood, join the greats, which he absolutely deserves. But I just thought that's so beautiful, again and again and again, all the different elements. And I think it just reminds us to maybe put our phones down.
But it's the same. It's the same at concerts, isn't it? Where people are watching their favourite, I don't know, Miley Cyrus, I don't know, but through their phone. You think, well, you can go home and watch your phone. Why are you doing that? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Absolutely. I literally had this conversation with my best friend the other week. She went to go see Usher, and we always have a joke. She's like a lot taller than me, and I'm obviously 5'0" for anyone that can't see us. And she always says, like, how do you see? Because whenever we go to stuff, I'm like, can we go to the back? Because I can't see the stage. All I see is people's backs.
Yeah, me
or
too.
she has to put me on her shoulders. And, there's only so much she can carry me. And she said, I got it, like how you always say, put your phone down. She goes, because everyone just put their phones up, and I was basically watching this concert through people's phones. And I said to her, yeah, get your 10-second clip, get your little photo.
Yeah.
Okay, but when have you ever gone back through your phone and watched that set? Never.
No, of
You
course
haven't
not.
done it. Just
No.
be in the moment and just
No.
enjoy it.
And you don't tend to see that in football, actually. I'm just thinking of the football crowds or rugby crowds. People are engaged on the pitch. They're not really doing it through.
Yeah, that's really true. And I don't know if that's because everything is so like televised, you can see the close-ups of everything happening,
Maybe.
or whether they're so caught up in the atmosphere, which
think
is
it's
like
that.
what we were discussing last week, that they just don't need to.
No, they're there for that atmosphere. They could they could watch it in a pub or go home and watch it if they didn't want
Exactly.
the atmosphere. MMA, your special favourite thing, a British fighter from Liverpool.
Yeah.
To go to Miami.
So yeah, Paddy Pimblett is from Liverpool. He's hugely famous there up north, but it's just another testament to the quality of fighters that were coming out of England, particularly Britain. And Miami was a huge fight card in Miami. It was a monumental one for multiple reasons. But he had one of his career best wins, and it's really funny when in between. He's such a character. He's got this like crazy blonde hair, and he looks like, I don't know, he couldn't blow a handkerchief, but he's so tough and he's so talented. Yeah, he's extraordinarily talented in all areas. And he always blows up between fights and he gets really chubby. So it's kind of like the fatty Paddy. And like he's a different person. He just loves food. And but I think he started to like dial it in a little bit. And when he walked out, I thought, goodness, he's in the best shape of his life. And he had a career best performance. It was a huge, it's called TKO, so technical knockout, but it was just complete dominance. He's, flying now, he's breaking into the top 10. And I think he's potentially, from Dana White, the CEO, either 1 or 2 fights away from a title fight, which again, like I said last week, this is huge. We're starting to see these fighters, which we only ever had one before. Now we're seeing them climb up through the ranks. We could have, potentially our 4th one in Paddy Pimblett coming.
Is there money in this, in an MMA? I mean,
yeah, it's definitely the top 1%.
Right.
It's definitely, you've really got to be a character, but you don't have to be a champion to make money. You got to have a personality, and I think that's where Paddy Pimblett comes in. He delayed his entrance to the UFC because he was getting basically paid more on the regional scene. But now as soon as he came in there, he's literally blown up. He always talks about mental health as well. He's really used his platform to talk about men's mental health and suicide. He's notoriously had a few friends commit suicide, and in his post-fights he's talked about dedicating the fights to them, the necessity to talk, to find community in sport, in martial arts. Wow. So again, we circle back to this what you might call brutal sport, but it brings people together and it saves lives, and that's what he wants to do. So great for Liverpool, great for the country, and great for people of the sport, and trying to advocate and use the platform for good.
Yeah, no, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, and then Alex Volkanovski, Australian, from Wollongong. Yeah, he's from 2 hours from me, got lots of friends in common. He's now become a 2-time champ. He's regained his title, and again, someone that used that platform to talk about the adversity that he's had to overcome to achieve that. He got knocked out twice in a row, and he lost his belt, and he's got 3 daughters, another one on the way. And he just said, this beautiful speech about these are the times where you change your life for the better.
Yeah.
Even if you don't achieve it, everything that you go for is worth it, because you're going to be better at the end of it. And it was just beautiful.
And I'm just looking at this notes here that you've sent me. It said he lost his vision in one. Is that right?
Oh, yes, he did. Yeah, he did. So yes, he got
lost his sight.
Yeah, during the fight. Yeah, he got it was super dramatic. I was like watching it, I was like, is it back, forth, what's gonna happen? And yeah, he got cracked pretty hard. He's so if you fracture your orbital bone, you see double vision in one eye, or you don't see anything at all. It happens a lot to boxers. So anything that's around the eye, that's also why they stop fights a lot of the time, because if you can't see, you can't fight. So a lot of people, that's what happens, and that's what happened to him towards the end of the fight. But he came through one.
That's scary, though, if you lose your vision.
Yeah, I think it was Caleb Plant when he fought Canelo. He was doing really well, and Canelo's a really hard boxer, hard puncher. He just systematically breaks people down. And I remember watching that, and I remember the commentators and some people being like, oh, it didn't seem like he was that hurt because he didn't get off the stool. And he shattered his orbital bone, so he couldn't see. So he said, I had to. What am I going to do, get knocked out? So, yeah.
Why do you like this sport?
It's chess, but with dire consequences.
Right, okay.
So it's just so intense.
Yeah. Very quickly before the end here, the football results of the weekend.
Yeah, football results. You know, the other week we were talking about, you know, the football fans and stuff. You got Chelsea, you know, 2-2 against Ipswich, and the fans were booing. And it was this whole conversation about, is it okay to boo fans? And they were 2-0 at half-time. They've gone into the locker room. They've made enough changes in the second half to at least equalise. But, you know, is it the conversations of being like, I remember I was listening to some of the boys on TalkSport today, some of the ex-players, and they said, yes, as a player, it should motivate you, but you know, you're going to keep playing, but as a manager, and then the fans turn against you, that's tricky. So you've got, you know, they're fighting for Champions League spot, you know, for one of the top 5 spots, and then basically Ipswich is down the bottom of the table. So it's not something that you want to be having a 2-2 at home, and you're 2-0 at half-time kind of result. You had Manchester going 4-1 against Newcastle, and then the Wolves beating Spurs 4-2. So it's been a lot of goals and a lot of drama, but also not something that you want to see from people, you know, top clubs trying to fight for a Champions League spot.
Yeah, I don't know about audiences booing. I think it's a bit too personal, isn't it?
Definitely when it comes to fighting, I have no time for it at all in combat sports. And even in sports, in football and stuff, it is tricky. It's not for me personally. I can understand the frustration. Like, Spurs is one of the most expensive games you can go to, and you have 17 losses in this season, not something that you want. I can understand fans getting frustrated, but I don't really see that as the motivation to light that fire behind somebody.
I'm pretty sure that if somebody was stood at the doorway booing me, I wouldn't be able to do this show.
Yeah, it's not motivating. You need a bit of inspiration. You need someone to pick you up and be like, come on, Petrie.
Exactly.
Let's pull it out of the bag.
That's what my team
The second
has to
half
do.
is down. Let's go pull it out, do some magic, make stuff happen.
Exactly that. Thank you. That was what I needed.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Vanessa D'Ambrosio, our sports reporter, thank you very much indeed. Right, stay where you are. We've got a very special guest next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, oh, I'm getting on. I do, getting old. I'm quite glad in a way. But you think, well, it's too late for me. I can't, there's nothing else I can do. In fact, my best friend, Timmy, who you know, who's on this programme a bit, he's always saying, oh, we've done everything now. He's 56, right? So we've done everything now, that's it. I'm never going to achieve what I thought I was going to achieve. I'm never going to do this, I'm never going to do that. But apparently it is never too late. And I say apparently because we have proof right here that whatever you're thinking of doing, it's not too late to do it. I mean, maybe to be a teen pop star, I think that those days have gone for me, or a catwalk model. I don't think those days were ever there for me, but it's never too late. And so says Lucy Makara. Now, Lucy has written 14 books, 3 fiction, 11 non-fiction, and mentored over 2,000 entrepreneurs. And if that wasn't enough, she's also the co-host of the Year of Being 70 podcast. And I'm just seeing you there. You're not 70.
I think my camera's very kind to me, actually. I definitely am.
Wow. I mean, seriously, Lucy. I can't do this interview now. You look far too young. I think you're lying. Anyway, listen, why is it that as we get older that we do think, that's it now, it's a midlife crisis, I've done everything, if I was going to do it, I've done it?
Well, I mean, people say, oh, age is just a number, don't they? But it is, when you get to 70, it's quite a big number, and you do realise that you are more than halfway through, the allotted span. In fact, 2 score years and 10 used to be it, didn't it?
Yeah.
So I suppose, I kind of feel at this point that I haven't got that long to do all the things that I want to do, so I better get on with it.
What was it? Literally that was just approaching the big number and saying, right, I've got almost to a degree. I like being the age I am because I don't care anymore. I don't care what people think of me. I don't care what people say about me. I literally do not care. Honestly, I get nasty text, whatever, don't care. It just comes, and that's one of the best things about getting older. But does that also give you the confidence to try something that you perhaps, and if you fail, it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I think as you get older, you definitely do have, I certainly have, cared less about what people think. And certainly starting the podcast last year, literally the day I was 70 with my friend Lisette, we have a conversation every week looking back over our 70 years of life or certain aspects of it. And because we're just talking to each other, and we've known each other since we were 8. We just talk about all sorts of stuff. And I kind of forget that it's public. We're just having a conversation. So in fact, in the last 6 months, I've said things online and, sort of in the public space that I've probably never said before and never really intended to. And people have generally been very nice about it. Nobody's complained or kind of said that they were shocked by anything. So we just go on doing it, and that's rather nice. And I think it does give me a certain confidence that I can just be myself, and it's okay. I think coming up to 70, I did have a feeling that because I was never intending to retire, and all the things I do, I was always planning to go on doing. But I did think, well, coming up to 70, that is a big number. Are people going to think, oh, she's a bit old for this? We better pension her off, or things like that. But nobody has actually said anything like that. So I just go on doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't intend to retire. There's no need, right? I mean, I can just do this talking stuff forever, but as long as people will have me. But with your friend, I've got a friend that I've known since I was 8 years old as well. That's a very special friendship, isn't it? The whole, who's known you all your life, and is she the least bit surprised that you've kept going and that you're doing what you're doing?
No, she's very much the same. She is also an entrepreneur, and she does a lot of investing in good, positive kind of businesses, and has the same kind of attitude as me. I mean, she's never going to retire either, and we just enjoy what we're doing. And the age thing comes up because we talk about it, but actually she's exactly the same as me, and we have no intention of giving up before we have to.
But there is, you know, constantly we're made aware of ageism in this country. A lot of people will say at the age of 50, if you lose your job, it is very difficult to get a like job back, to be treated with, you know, it almost seems now, Lucy, that the experience doesn't count for very much anymore. You know, in broadcasting terms, it really doesn't. You know, the fact that I've done every kind of show, I've been everywhere and done everything. They've replaced me with somebody from a soap opera tomorrow if they could afford it, right? But I think, so experience doesn't seem to be that marketable anymore. So what do you do as you get over 50 and you find that people are not interested in all the good work that you've done?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? And I suppose it depends what sector you're in, and also what kind of job or work you've done. I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always worked for myself or started my own businesses. So in a way, nobody can sack me. So there is, you know, there's no retirement age for what I do, and I'm not in a corporate situation where I'm, you know, kind of following rules or indeed kind of competing with people who are younger than me. I mean, right. I have a couple of businesses, and I tend to work with, I mean, I'm by far the oldest person in my businesses, and I'm kind of mostly working with people in their 40s. And but that's really nice, actually. I think that keeps me young as well, working with other people. And so far I haven't experienced any ageism from them, which is really nice. And I rather like the fact that I started a tech business.
Wow.
I was 68, I think, at the time. And I like the fact that, you know, everybody thinks tech businesses have to be run by tech bro type men, and you know, somebody called me a tech gran the other day. So I mean,
I got caught out the other day sending a text to the wrong person with dire consequences, I must say. So I'm not very yeah, it wasn't. Let me tell you this, it wasn't good. You know, so a lot of people would say that as we get older, we don't have that technical ability, or we lose the ability to do certain things. But do you think just pushing on and keeping going, keeping your brain active, learning new things, is really the secret to why you look so incredibly young and you've got all of that energy?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know about the looks bit, but I think it's why I feel young. I tend to have done things later in life that most people would have done earlier. So I wrote my first novel when I was in my mid to late 40s, because I didn't feel that I'd got enough life experience to write anything interesting before then. So I started that then. And I also married again when I was 40 and adopted two little girls from Russia. So I sort of became a much older mother when I was in my late 40s, early 50s. And then I went back to college and did a teaching diploma in my 50s, and then started a publishing company. And it's sort of, I don't know, have you ever heard of the counterclockwise experiment, where a psychologist took older, I think it was all men actually, and put them in an environment which was like their 20s. So, you know, the decor, the music, the everything, the clothes they were wearing, and they sort of became younger. They became more physically fit. They became more mentally agile by kind of taking them back into their youth. So
wow.
It's all an attitude.
That's fascinating. I don't want to go back to my youth. That'd be a disaster. No. Oh no. So what next, Lucy? I mean, look. I mean, what are you going to do now? Any more books? Any more novels? Any?
I've just written my last book about how to write books. So that's my 7th book about how to write books, and that is definitely my last on that subject. But I'm in the middle of writing a novel at the moment, which is based in my childhood and sort of teenage years. So it's not about me, but it's about, you know, I'm kind of using that. And I'm sorry to say, the genre will be called historical fiction, because it's in the 50s and 60s.
Oh,
I mean, to me, it's just but I'll be writing that. I might write a memoir, but I'd like to write a few novels. So yeah, that's something I'll do.
Where
And
do you
I've got a couple of other.
Where do you find the time? I mean, I'm sort of writing a novel at the moment, but I keep putting it down. And then because I paint, so I love to paint, so I do my painting. But I just, you know, where do you get the time to do all of these things? That's what I don't get.
I know. I kind of fit things. I'm quite good at fitting things around each other. So I'm quite good at sort of doing a short splurge of doing this and then moving to something else. And then I just kind of, because I've always worked for myself and I'm working from home, it's, you know, mainly, it's kind of much easier to just organise my own time, I think, than if I had to go into an office or a studio like you you know, sort of have to commute or any of those things. So I just fit things in, and I probably am a bit of a workaholic. I enjoy doing doing what I do. So
what's your favourite thing that you've done so far?
Oh gosh, that's a difficult one. I think what I actually enjoy doing most is writing fiction. I mean, I love reading fiction. I listen to audiobooks all the time when I'm not doing anything else. And I love telling stories, I suppose, and creating characters. So if I could choose, I would just write fiction, I think. And I did try that in my 40s, but unfortunately I didn't turn into J.K. Rowling, so I had to go back and do something that earned some money. So
well, I tell you what, you've put a spark in me. It's time for me to get back to my book, at least finish it. I won't send it to anyone, but it's the process of doing it in some cases, which is just wonderful. It's been such a joy to meet you, Lucy. Thank you for joining me. Lucy McCara there you go. It's never too late. Never forget that. Right, it's never too late either to look at the papers for tomorrow, and John Boothman will be here to go through them for you and me. So all of that is to come. And then, of course, don't forget our phone in at midnight. And my puppy.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and it is good to have your company. And joining us all the way from Scotland is the bonny John Boothman, political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland. Very, very nice to see you, John. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm extremely well, actually.
The weather's been okay up here, except for the fact that it started raining again today. So
yeah, it's cold here. Don't like it. Don't like it at all. We thought we got spring and then it suddenly went cold again. So let's start. Oh, before we get to the papers, actually, John, I wanted to talk to you about this because Donald Trump has now confirmed he was meeting with the El Salvadorian president today, Bukele, and he's confirmed that he wants to send American citizens now to, he's mentioned it before, but now he said, yeah, I definitely want to send American citizens to these El Salvadorian, I don't even want to call them prisons, hellholes that they are. And what I'm going to be asking is how we would feel if that was a suggestion here, that British citizens, we've got too many prisoners, not enough prison places, it'll be cheaper if we send them overseas. I'm just wondering what you make of this latest sort of comments by Trump.
I just wonder if he's going to run into trouble with the American Constitution on it.
It doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. The US Supreme Court have already ordered him to bring back that guy that was wrongly sent there, and he's not going to do it.
Yeah, well, again, that's interesting. I'm long enough in the tooth, and that's just not me. I suspect it's just about everybody to see how quickly Trump moves from a stated position one day, and then a few days later that stated position changes, moves, is not even negotiated away, but explained away, usually in a very confident manner. And let's see how long this lasts. But as you say, they've already deported lots and lots of people, including, one celebrated case of a guy who appears to be innocent, as you said, who they are now somehow or other not going to bring back, at least so far. And he's doing exactly that. And we'll just need to see how this one goes. But I think it might be quite hard for him to do that. Is it the case we could do it here? I can't see it's a place that the UK government would want to go. It'd be interesting to see whether any other political parties would actually support that kind of move. It's clearly the case we've got big issues in our prisons. In Scotland, we are building our first £1 billion prison at Barlinnie to replace the existing Victorian building. And it's costing a lot of money. We are releasing an early release prisoners, not violent prisoners or sexual offenders, but lots of prisoners already in a situation where I think the public would rather see people with longer sentences rather than shorter sentences. But I don't know that this is a step that, certainly the authorities in Scotland and probably a Labour government would be willing to consider sending domestic prisoners to some other jurisdiction if another jurisdiction would have them.
The problem is a couple of problems with that, though, isn't there? That we're never guaranteed a benign government. Look what's happened in the United States. And the other point I wanted to make was that this perfectly innocent man who had the right to remain in America, who is now allegedly in an El Salvadorian prison, I suspect that he has met his a rather sticky end, which is why they won't return him. That's because I can't think of any other reason, to be honest with you, John, that they wouldn't just be able to do this. But this could very, very easily, this innocent man being in this jail, be a test case for Donald Trump. What is, if he doesn't bring this man back, whether alive or dead, he's beaten the system. The US Supreme Court has 3 levels of courts, indeed, have told him that he has to bring this man back. He even said that if the US Supreme Court orders me to do it, I will do it. He's now saying he won't do it. Bukele has said in the Oval Office today that he is not going to send him back. What's to stop Donald Trump from sending a US citizen? This guy was like one pin away from being a US citizen. He had the right to be there because the US Supreme Court can order him to bring them back, but he's not going to do it. This could easily be a test case for him.
It could be. We're just going to have to see how it plays out. You know, look, courts and the judicial system often take a long time to get anything done anyway. I don't know. It will be interesting to see. I think just like the negotiations that we had to have over Rwanda, for example. I mean, I don't know how quickly he could organise a thing like this with with a country like El Salvador without getting clogged up in the courts. But as you say, he might just go for it anyway. And looking at the way American public opinion works these days, you would think that certainly amongst Trump supporters, this would be regarded as a very good thing. No matter what Trump seems to do, he seems, in terms of his own base, to be able to, get the support from that base for what look like sometimes, either pretty extreme or, on the other hand, dare I say it, pretty kind of stupid. Is that the right words? Policies
yeah.
that impact actually on those people themselves, as we've seen in the past few weeks in relation to some of the economic measures that he's taken.
Going back to the point of the changing of politics in this country, or the changing of government, we are likely to see some big swings. We can't talk about it too much, obviously, because we're in Purdah, but we're likely to see some big changes in councils across the country. If we get an emboldened Reform Party, if we get an emboldened electorate in the future, with the general election, we already know that Farage aligns himself very closely, actually, with a lot of Trump policies. It's not that easy to say that we wouldn't have this as a suggestion.
Well, look, it's not that difficult to see anything like that happening if you've got some kind of populist government in charge of the country. Again, look, there's one of the papers tomorrow morning, The Sun's, talking about Britain being broken. It's talking about Reform doing very well in the elections that are coming in England and Wales. The current government and the Conservatives should actually think themselves lucky that these elections are so limited in their scale and don't apply across the whole of England. It's likely to be the case, as we've said, that, the Tories will probably suffer, will suffer worse than Labour, though if you look at the by-election results in England, Labour are suffering pretty badly at the hands of Reform as well. But look, none of this stuff is beyond the bounds of imagination. Again, I've not heard Nigel Farage pronounce on this particular issue, but that's not to say that he might not in the next few weeks.
And like you said, it is likely to be a popular solution to the problems that we've got in this country, and that I think is a bit scary. But there you go. I think it'll be popular. I think it would be a popular thing to do. I'll test that a little bit later, but John, let's have a quick look, if we can, at the New York Times. Like I said, I'm picking an American paper at the moment. Trump tariffs shake faith in the safety of US bonds. This is the debt that they sell in order to fund the federal government, basically, in basic terms. And we are seeing now what looks like coordination between nations who hold a lot of American debt. It's what forced him back to the table about the tariffs. The 90-day break was down to the bond market, not the stock market. He doesn't seem to care about the stock market. This is a real worry for Trump, because if there is a further coordination in the sell-off of bonds, America could be in real trouble. And China holds a massive amount of American debt.
Yeah, and if governments, this particular government, the United States, can't sell bonds, what they need to do in order to sell bonds is to basically offer better interest rates on these bonds. If they offer better interest rates on these bonds, what that actually means is it has an effect on the wider level of interest rates across the United States, and they'll go up, thereby hitting the very people that I spoke about a few minutes ago, who supported Trump. We've already seen, as a result of what are we calling it, Trumponomics or whatever it's called, in the past couple of weeks, what happened in the stock market, and that's still down from where it was, I think, what is it,
Massively
12
down,
days,
yeah.
Liberation Day. Then, in addition to that, we see also, and I was very interested in this today, particularly in relation to the summer holiday period coming up, that the dollar ain't doing so well either.
Yeah.
And for anybody who wants to go to America, then that would be a big boost in their holidays. But also, perhaps not the kind of news that consumers in America will want to see, because all that means at the end of the day is that anything that does come into the country, as well as having tariffs slapped on them, they're going to have to pay more in US dollars to get any imports. So it's a difficult situation that he's created. Of course, he's saying it's all fine, but that situation with bonds where people lose confidence in the government's ability to be able to run an economy properly, then that becomes a big difficulty for the federal government.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. And I think, I've heard rumours that it was Carney's suggestion, but I don't know if it's true or not. The hopefully soon to be Canadian president, he's the interim president at the moment, but they are having an election. It's other stories that are making this front page of the New York Times is this helicopter. There seems to be quite a lot of planes and helicopters falling out of the skies in the US at the moment, and this latest one, they're saying its fate was a tragedy. This is Lionel Carls and his wife and young son arrived from Nice on Wednesday with a list of things to do, but unfortunately there was a helicopter company which has now gone bust or closed, had a crash. It's the second helicopter crash in a matter of days.
Yeah. Look, I don't think anybody, I think these things tend to be, isolated incidents, tragic incidents when these things happen, but, we've already seen, even in the past few weeks, some criticism in America of Trump and Elon Musk as part of the Department of Government Efficiency Savings, taking a knife and fork to the safety organisations in America, including some of the organisations that run the airports and the airways in America. Look, that's not to say that this is what happened or anything like it in the case you're talking about, as I say, another tragic accident. But, these are the kind of things that happen. Yeah. If you take, that kind of approach to vital public services that are important for the safety of important bits of infrastructure.
Yeah, it's just so sad that these things that they're hearing all the time. And the other interesting one, which I don't think has got the size of story that it deserves, is no easy path for Iran talks. And you've got, the Secretary of State for Defence, Pete Hegseth, suggesting we're going to bomb, or they're going to bomb Iran.
I think, look, this has been, very well known in America for a long time. This is, Trump's antipathy towards any agreement that Biden made with the Iranians. He's desperate to make sure that there will be absolutely no nuclear weapons and the possibility of nuclear weapons in Iran. They met over the weekend, that article in the New York Times saying, and they're going to meet again next weekend. And of course, all around all of this is not just the spectre of what America might do with the Iranians, but what the Israelis might do with the Iranians as well.
And then what Russia might do in defence of the Iranians. And then what China might do in the...
another, tinderbox situation where something much wider can be sparked off as a result of the actions that are taken in relation to this particular issue, as if that particular region in the world didn't have enough of that already.
Well, it's okay because Pete Hegseth will just put a message on WhatsApp or something first. We'll get some warning if they're going to bomb. Surely, I mean that seems to be what happens now in the United States. Right, John, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll start digging through the UK papers for Tuesday.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie with you, and with me is John Boothman. And John, let's turn our attention to your sister paper, The Times. And first of all, that image, lift off 6 women, including Lauren Sanchez, the fiancée of the Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, and the singer Katy Perry floated around in space in one of his Blue Origin rockets. So Bezos sent these women up. It's been really annoying me that people keep saying an all-women crew. They're not crew. They didn't do anything. They just sat there and came back
They were there
down.
for 11 minutes. It's a big deal. I mean, it's a long time since there has been a group of women only being sent into space. I noticed earlier on in one of the news bulletins, the Astronomer Royal for Scotland, a lady called Professor Catherine Hamans, who's an astrophysicist, making the point that, yes, there might be a small group of women going to space, but space should not just be for women or for men. Space should be not for billionaires, right? Was the point she was making. And what seems to be happening, she says it should be for men and for women, men and women of all backgrounds, is we've now got a space race between billionaires. And I think that is actually a bit of food for thought for all of us, to be quite honest.
Well, it was a nice cheap wedding present, I guess, for Lauren Sanchez. I don't know how much it cost to send a rocket up, but I suspect it's more than a pair of diamond earrings. They look like they had a lovely time, and of course they would. But yeah, it's just something about it. It's just really annoyed me. These 6 female-only crew. Like, did they even press a button? I doubt it. But would you go up?
I would have at some point. I think you have to take a chance at these kind of things. The whole space. Look, the fascination that we have for these things is just absolutely incredible. I mean, I've been watching a thing on Apple TV about going to Mars, which is a new drama, which is actually I've quite enjoyed. We are utterly fascinated as a world, right? And certainly in this country, with space travel, whether it be, going back all the day. Certainly, I grew up in a diet of Star Trek, Ever since that, there's been so many films and programs, Apollo 13, that wonderful film that we've all seen so many times, the film about Mars, Gravity, that other. And look, we're just absolutely obsessed with this stuff. So I think, that explains why, a story like this, albeit, half a dozen women go to the edge of space for 11 minutes, just carries a fascination for everybody.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'd want to go up in an Elon rocket. The last two have blown up, haven't they? So I'd probably wait for that.
I mean, I recall I like to tell this story. I've been once or twice, I think, to the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, and I cannot forget when looking at the size of the capsules that went to the moon. They were about the size of a small Mini. They had all these wee Bakelite switches and everything in them. It was almost, when you looked at it, the outer shell of this was so flimsy that we actually sent people to the moon in it, right? Some of these vehicles that were sent up into space, it looked as if, as I say, they were kind of covered in Bako foil or something.
Yeah.
And they were tiny. Now, I don't know whether the conditions, they certainly, when you see pictures of the space station and the likes these days, they certainly look a lot bigger and more sophisticated than they were. But we're talking about a situation now where Musk wants to send, a space rocket to Mars and then be able to bring it back. I mean, what is it, 2 years in space that people would have to spend to do that?
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's possible or how quickly that's possible, but that's what people seem to be heading the direction of. Though, as I say, it's going to be done perhaps by a private company rather than by the state.
Well, they're the ones with the money, aren't they? The private companies.
Yep.
So I guess they can, thank goodness for them, because they're the ones that are pushing and advancing this space travel. And look, if he can get to Mars, I mean, that would be an extraordinary feat. Really would be worth seeing. The other story that I want to draw your attention to, if I can, is this seems to be a little bit confusing, because Ed Miliband has been encouraging Chinese involvement in much of the UK's critical infrastructure. And yet with British Steel, likely now to be brought back into national control, they're trying to get rid of the Chinese on that basis. So this is a little bit of a confusing political story, at least.
Look, I think we're all very confused about all of this stuff. Again, we're talking in the context about everything that's happened since Trump came to power. The British government's in a place that it doesn't want to offend, on the one hand, the Americans. On the other hand, we need to have relations with China. It's tiptoeing around what it needs to do in terms of having better relations with Europe. Since Brexit, we are a small island on our own, which imports loads of stuff. We don't need, the last thing we need is tariffs. We probably don't need to get into a fight with the Chinese, though you can see the reasons why, the Prime Minister and the government would want to do that, given what's happened in Scunthorpe. So it is a confusing picture. It's a difficult picture. It's a difficult balancing act for the government. So on the one hand, Ed Miliband's out there looking for investment in, things like energy projects, offshore wind power, some manufacturing for battery storage and the like. Rachel Reeves has been there, I think, in January. Douglas Alexander, who's my local MP here in East Lothian, where I live, he's currently there. Yet on the one hand, on the one hand they're doing that, and on the other hand they have this problem in Scunthorpe with a Chinese company. Now, at the end of the day, the Chinese company, whether it's sponsored by the government or not, or directed by the Chinese government, will have its own priorities, and its own priorities in the situation that it may find itself in at the moment could be that it doesn't want to have stuff done in Britain if they can import steel from China into this country. So I don't know, but I suspect, there's something like that going on. And already, of course, we've seen, and this is the headline, I think, in the Telegraph and a couple of the other papers, that the Chinese themselves are saying, hey, don't politicise trade, don't mix it up with anything else that's happening, and threatening that maybe in future this could impact on investment and jobs in Britain.
Yeah.
So the government finds itself in quite a difficult position.
It really is, isn't it, right now? And also, wasn't there was some controversy about the buying solar panels that from China that had been put together by children or whatever, dubious labour with labour concerns on how they were built as well. So because they were cheap, right? They're cheaper to buy. That's what China does well. It makes things cheaply and sells them at a price that we can't get anywhere else. But there's been some controversy, hasn't there, for some time with China's labour force and things like that. And Ed Miliband sort of dipping into our money, taxpayers' money, to buy these things is going to get him into a whole heap of trouble.
No, I think so. Look, but again, these are the difficulties that we're all going to face. The other thing is that, all of this is still so uncertain. We don't know, what kind of mood, for example, Donald Trump will wake up with tomorrow morning in relation to what he's doing with China. It started off, I think, they levied these very high tariffs on the Chinese. They've ratcheted it up again because the Chinese retaliated. We've now got a situation where, Trump himself on Friday exempted mobile phones and computers from it, which looked as if he was stepping back a bit. But look, a trade war between the United States and the Chinese is not what anybody needs at all. I don't know whether the American government thought that the Chinese would back off, would step down, would not retaliate, but it's certainly the case. It doesn't look like it. I mean, I heard one Chinese commentator, I think, on Channel 4 last week saying that China had been there for 5,000 years, long before America was even discovered, and it will be there for another 5,000 years. And I can't help but think that maybe the population of China, which of course lives in a different political system from us and from the Americans, might be a bit more resilient in the face of American pressure, and I'm talking about people in China, than maybe the American population. And what I mean by that is, well, look what happened with the bond markets in America. Look, as I say, what I think might happen to some support for Trump around it. And, the Chinese government, it has been around for a long time, and is a very, very sophisticated government. And they now look like the stable factor in all of this, when the Americans are the people who look as if the people who are causing the turmoil.
It is extraordinary, and I really didn't think that would ever happen. That you would see, China really doing the right thing and America doing the wrong thing for world trade. It's extraordinary. John, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and have a look at the Daily Telegraph for Tuesday.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you, and with me is John Boothman, who's a political correspondent for the Sunday Times in Scotland. John, the Telegraph for Tuesday, unions threaten to spread the bin strikes. Now, these are the horrendous bin strikes that the people of Birmingham are having to live with at the moment, and they're not getting what they want from Birmingham Council. It seems that a lot of talks have failed to achieve any kind of resolution. And now there's the unions look like they're going to spread this across the country.
I mean, this is an absolutely horrendous situation. It's been going for 5 months.
Wow.
They're talking about 1,500 tonnes of rubbish a day. One Tory MP in the West Midlands I saw earlier saying that as a result of these talks breaking down today, the rats would be dancing in the streets. All over, you know, a small number of jobs, as I understand it, and a small number of changes that the council needs to make. This particular council in England, Birmingham being a very large council, but also really cash strapped.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got this situation where the unions won't back down. They're threatening wider action. And again, it will be interesting to see whether that happens or not. And despite the fact that it appears that the council have made some concessions, the union's not accepting that. I saw Angela Rayner today. Now, Angela Rayner's regarded probably as one of the more left-wing people in Starmer's government. She's also regarded as being very close to the unions, urging the unions to accept a deal. The Labour government's already sent in some people from the army, not to clear the streets, but army planners who are coordinating, you know, some sort of work that's going on, which is collecting the worst of the rubbish. But look, can you imagine what this is like, living in a city the size of Birmingham, second biggest city in the UK, and there's rubbish piling up in the streets for 5 weeks?
I mean, we haven't seen anything like this really since the 70s, have we? So, I mean, it's hard to imagine. I've seen pictures of Leicester Square, which was literally just a massive mound of rubbish. But I did feel incredibly sorry for those professional soldiers, right? We have a professional military being told to pick up rubbish. I mean, why do the army have to do these things? It's just outrageous.
Well, because we have a situation in the country that, you know, if we can't solve these kind of situations, it's the army that ends up coming in. I mean, look, I can remember the state of the streets in Edinburgh actually only a couple of years ago during the Edinburgh Festival, when the GMB union went on strike. And in effect,
yes.
Yeah, and you know, it was at the worst possible time for the city. There were tourists from all over the world in the city for the festival, and again, the rubbish was piling up in the streets. I can also, because I'm old enough to remember this, remember what you were talking about earlier, the winter of discontent.
That's it, yeah.
And how during that particular time in the late 70s, it did impact on the Labour government at that time. So, yeah, look, this needs to get fixed and needs to get solved, and people need to get round the table, bash heads together and get it sorted.
I can't imagine just how, especially coming into the summer, John, the stink will be awful. You won't be able to open your windows, you won't be able to go for a walk in the streets. I mean, it is just absolutely horrendous. But I wonder, the union's threatening to spread these bin strikes. Many councils now have private contractors do these jobs. So the unions really wouldn't have any effect on those. I think most of you see lots of different wagons going around London, and they all seem to be private companies and not council employees.
I'm not particularly familiar with the situation south of the border compared to north of the border, I have to say, but certainly what you've got in Edinburgh, for example, is you have private companies who collect the commercial waste from restaurants and shops and the like, and arrangements, different arrangements are made. But look, where does this lead, right? It leads to, I think, probably more privatisation of services, which Unite, the union in particular, would not like. It leads, no doubt, to a place, perhaps, and I'm only speculating here, that if anybody's looking to vote for anybody in the coming election, you could imagine it might not be a Labour administration they'd be prepared to vote for, but for somebody else, like Reform, for example, and the union Unite wouldn't like that either. So, these are things that are happening as a result of this. But look, this must be a huge health hazard, as well as a whole load of other problems that this brings. I just find it unbelievable, right, that, in this day and age, we can't get these kind of things sorted.
I agree. It's just impossible. What a terrible, terrible way to have to live with all that rubbish around. It's a basic job, isn't it, of government to sort that sort of stuff out. The Daily Mail, again, looking at the women in space. And the bin strike grinds on. So there you go. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner pleaded with Unite to accept those deals. The Guardian, an urgent review of China's role in the UK vital. Labour figures tell the PM, which is, like as we said, is the last thing that he wants to be able to do. I mean, he's already riding 2 horses. I don't think he can ride 3. And the pictures there of those women who landed back down on Earth, an all-female crew.
Can I say something unusual, Petrie, that you don't ever hear me saying?
Go on.
Right. Probably for the one and only time I like the front page of the Daily Star, which is a headline from Katy Perry. I went to space and I liked it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I thought that was quite smart. That goes in, one of my favourite headlines of the week.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Apparently she sang Up in Space, but she didn't sing that one.
She sang A Wonderful World.
It's a Wonderful World, yeah. And The Sun has gone with I Kissed the Ground, and I liked it. So that's not bad. That is not bad at all. So that is the Daily Star for Tuesday. Katy Perry, What a Wonderful World. Pop star Trekker. Katy Perry sang What a Wonderful World after heading into space on the Blue Origin rocket. And when she got back, the I Kissed a Girl singer kissed the ground, which is a little dramatic, but nevertheless. And also, I just want to mention this before we go to another break, if I can. The Rishi Aid betting rap. You must be all over this one, John.
Look, I was remembering, actually, I can remember this from the election. It wasn't as if things hadn't gone bad enough for Rishi Sunak. Remember, again, I was remembering these great moments when he came out and he announced the election in his suit without a brolly, and it was pouring of rain. They were already way back in the opinion polls, and then this stuff erupted. And, again, I've seen some clips of this from television during leaders' interviews, I think, in a leader debate, people in the public raising this idea that some people in the Conservatives had bet on the date of the general election. Now, of course, the people we are talking about in these stories today, I think there's about 15 of them, all associated with the Conservative Party in some shape or form. Of course, they still have to appear in court, so we need to be careful about what we're saying here. But one of them, the parliamentary private secretary, a guy called Craig Williams, to Rishi Sunak, now you could not get any closer to the Prime Minister than the parliamentary private secretary, his eyes and ears in the Commons, a couple of other people, you know, the lead marketing officer for the Conservative Party, even somebody who was a police officer as part of Rishi Sunak's protection squad appears to be involved in all of this. Now, of course, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and they'll appear in the magistrates' court, I think, in June. But what a story, and didn't help the Conservatives one iota during that general election.
No, it really didn't, and like you said, it was up and running then. This story, wasn't it? I mean, everybody was all over it. Yeah, it's a serious development, as it says on the front page of the Mirror. And the other story there, Rory McIlroy, who is now Grandmaster, Grand Slam.
What a guy, right? You know, I mean, 10 years, I think, since he's won one of the majors. This was the only one that he hadn't. I saw a fantastic interview earlier with James Nesbitt, the actor, who clearly comes from Northern Ireland and knows him really well, and was talking about, you know, Northern Ireland being a place which has not been without its troubles, and how Rory McIlroy was a great fount of light and happiness to people. Also talking about McIlroy's parents, and you know, you would have seen him overnight paying tribute to his parents, looking forward to getting back to see them this week. Nesbitt, I didn't realise this, saying that Rory McIlroy's father was the barman at the golf club where Rory McIlroy used to play, that he joined when he was 7 years old. But what a fantastic story. I think he's the 6th or the 7th person ever to ever win all of the majors. You know, Jack Nicklaus is there, Gary Player's there, Tiger Woods is there. Absolutely incredible in this day and age that he should be able to do it. And I don't know if you watched any of it, but I mean, what a roller coaster final round of golf it was. He started off, he was 2 strokes in the lead. He blew it on the first hole and just dropped the 2 strokes. And the whole round went up and down like a yo-yo. He got to the end. He looked as if he was going to win in the last hole. He didn't. And then it took a playoff with Justin Rose to win it in the end. But look, absolutely incredible. Just fantastic. You know,
it was great, lovely to see him today. I mean, he was in tears and talking about his parents, and that he was looking forward to getting back and celebrating with them, who clearly had such a big part in him becoming the golfer that he is. I mean, I don't know anything about golf. I'm along the lines of it's a good walk ruined, but you know, I think that it's. You know, you can't knock somebody for doing it so well with the sport that they love.
I live in East Lothian, as I've said before, just outside Edinburgh, and there are more fantastic golf courses in East Lothian than you can shake a stick at. It's just full of golf courses. People should come here. It's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, back to Rory. There was a great clip of him earlier when he was much younger, saying that when he was small and practicing and he couldn't get out into the golf course, he went into the kitchen and he used to practice chipping the ball into the washing machine, which I just thought was brilliant, right?
That's very cool.
Absolutely terrific.
Yeah. Well, good for him. That's extraordinary. Right, quick break, John, and we'll be back in just a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you, and with me is John Boothman, and we're going through the papers for Tuesday, and just looking at another Trump story that you wanted to touch on, and this is one I spoke about it at 10 o'clock. It is Trump vows tariffs on pharma import, so it's drugs, and this is going to really hit the British economy as well.
But look, you know, this is the sharp end of this stuff. This is really, really, really serious. Now, after cars, one of our biggest exports to America are pharmaceuticals. You know, if we get ourselves into a position where we are subject to high tariffs on this is going to be really, really bad for the economy. One of Trump's objectives, and I noticed that when he was being quoted about this today, he specifically talked about Ireland having pharmaceuticals companies based there, is to repatriate American companies and to bring other companies who produce goods abroad to America, to have their factories in America and produce the goods there rather than produce them here. This could be very, very serious for the British economy if he goes down this particular road, and he seems determined to do that. Again, we need to see whether it will happen or not, but, you know, this is what we don't need. Look, the other thing that we are still worried about in this part of the world is the two things that would have a big effect on the Scottish economy are both whisky and salmon. But yeah, I'll tell you what, they're big exports from Scotland, but they're way behind pharmaceuticals, which are right up there, as I say, after cars as the biggest exports that we have to the States.
I mean, it's a really worrying time, and like I was saying to Vicky Price, is that the markets would prefer a certain certainty in a bad thing than the uncertainty that we've got, and the on again, off again, and what's going to happen to the pharmaceutical business. I mean, it is an extraordinary thing, and even if Donald Trump has got the right motivation in taking factories back to the US, whatever they produce in the US is going to be really expensive, which is why most things are farmed out overseas, and also building those very specialist factories is going to take at least a decade.
Look, you know, I've just read this fantastic book, which has been around for a while, called Chip Wars, all about the development of computers and semiconductors, and, you know, the modern economy that we have, global economy that we have in terms of producing any of this stuff. And it was a deliberate policy for many, many years. It was what made the Americans, high-tech companies, make a lot of their cash, was to outsource work, building, making, you know, chips to some of the devices that we've got, like smartphones, to other countries around the world. You know, they went to Southeast Asia, to Taiwan, to Korea, and these kind of places, Vietnam, in order to get cheaper labour to manufacture the goods that we are talking about. And that's what made them so successful, and I suspect that's one of the reasons that Trump himself backed off last week the tariffs on iPhones and other parts of computers, because this was the policy which has made many of these companies rich again.
Well, and it's made America one of the most successful economies in the world. It just seems to be odd to take something that has made America so wealthy and completely destroy it. For example, I'm watching something today, because a lot of the Chinese companies are now coming out and being very public about the work that they do. And there was a Birkin bag that is made in China by artisans, right? I mean, they are qualified artisans. They're not. It's not just a factory of children, right? These are well-trained artists and artisans with the best leathers and things like that, and they're making these bags that are sold in the US for £38,000, and they cost to make them $38,000, and they cost $1,400 to make. So you've got that level, and they're made in China. They're then shipped to Italy or to France to have a label stuck on them, like, you know, Birkin or LV or Gucci, and then it can say made in France or Italy, and then they're sent into America. But you're looking at a profit margin there, 38,000 to 1,400. If they were to make that in the US, the 38 grand would be closer to the actual cost.
Yeah, well, again, you know, this is Trumponomics for you. However, you know, what it does do, and again, the tariff policy and the sort of, you know, economics that you're talking about seem to be popular with Trump's base.
Well, they are,
You know, you're watching pictures of him turning up at sports events like at the weekend and getting cheered to the rafters because his Make America First policy seems to strike a chord with people in the country. Look, let's again see how long that lasts. You know, you're already starting to get Republicans here and there around about Senate and Congress starting to get a bit jittery at some of it. But look, you know, it's firing up the base for the time being. And that's where he is.
But oligarchs don't like losing money, and you know, we've already had Elon Musk saying, I don't agree with what's going on here. There should be free trade between Europe and America at the very least, or between the UK and America, and you've got people like Bezos and well, not him so much, but all the tech oligarch bros who are going to be having to spend a good deal more money, even if they can get the American staff, because there is no job shortage in America. There isn't these swathes of people who are unemployed. You've got about a 4% unemployment rate. 2% is the resting rate, which you would expect in any economy. So you've got 2% of the population available to go and work in these factories that they don't have the skills to work in. I don't understand. I don't understand it. John, before we go, you wanted to talk about the FT, Brussels. Explain this story to me. Staff in the US use burner phones.
Well, look, this is suggesting that people going from the European Commission to America, just like if they in the past have gone to China worried about security and information being leaked, they're now providing them with burner phones and basic computers when they go to America, in case the Americans are eavesdropping on what people might be talking about. It jumped out at me when I looked at it earlier on. That sounds like a very interesting story. But this is the uncertain world we live in. Can I make a plea, if I'm ever coming back on the programme, that we try to get through the 50 minutes or so not talking about Donald Trump?
No, it's not going to happen. The only problem is so much of the world at the moment is in turmoil because of one man. It's impossible. You can't talk about anything without it going back to him. He now thinks he has the power of being able to see into the future. I mean, we didn't even touch that story. Would you go to the US at the moment? It's interesting because I was looking at the figures recently that have come out about tourism and into the United States of America, and a lot of people are deeply concerned because many people have cancelled their holidays. A lot of Canadians, for example, but not just Canadians, people from across the world are not going to America. In fact, so much so that you get a flight from Heathrow to New York at 350 quid in August.
Well, look, the exchange rate's good. The flights are... Look, I love America. I've been to America on a number of occasions. It's just part of its attraction is it's kind of like the land of excess for me. You know, you can't buy one thing, they give you six. I mean, I just love America. For many years, you know, 20 years ago, we went to America, and I used to get, oh God, this is shameful. I used to get absolutely obsessed with various kind of, you know, television programmes. One holiday I remember I found 24-hour line dancing channels, which I loved. And then another year that I went, I got obsessed by the religious channels, which, you know, we didn't have here.
No.
I remember a particular programme that I watched, which I think we had briefly here on Fox, which was called The Swan, where they took people away, took them to hospital and altered their appearance by plastic surgery, and they weren't allowed to see either themselves or their friends. And then they unveiled it to everybody in front of a big mirror. I mean, it was just like absolutely excessive, but I loved it.
Oh, I'm good. Well, now I'm going to have to find that programme. John, it's been an absolute wonderful pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up, we're going to be talking about whether you would you be happy to hear that the UK government was planning to send prisoners out of the UK to a foreign country to serve their term, no matter where that country was, and a horrendous situation. Maybe you think that some prisoners absolutely deserve it. Give me a call, 03444 99 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, hello there. It is fantastic to have your company. And before we get into the phone in, I don't know how many of you, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening at the moment, and you want to just quickly have a look and see who I'm about to introduce you to. This is my new son. Look at this. This is Humphrey. This is Humphrey. Petrie Hosken, 9 weeks old. There he is. He's very sleepy at the moment, having been very boisterous all day. What's this nonsense about puppies actually sleeping for 20 hours a day when this one absolutely doesn't? Here he is. Look, he's 9 weeks old. He is a Shih Tzu, and he's come in to work because he's a little bit too young to leave on his own. So he'll be coming with me for a couple of weeks, I think. And also it gives his big brother Bailey a bit of a break, because this one, yeah, wants to play with Bailey all the time. And Bailey's 11 now, and it's like, can you just go away and leave me alone? So this is my new boy, and I'm absolutely exhausted, because when you have a baby like this, little baby, they wake you up all the time. So it's been fun. It's like having a baby. Literally, it's like having my son again. And you are, aren't you? My new one. So anybody with any advice on puppies, please, how do I? I'm going to start crate training tomorrow. Oh no, later on today, if he lets me have any sleep at all. Any advice on crate training would be absolutely wonderful. You're going to look in the camera. Look in the camera. There he is. There he is. So there you go. I wanted for you to meet Humphrey. There he is. Oh, he's beautiful. Right, you can sleep on the desk now. Oh, you got a bit of a scratch. There you go. You just lie there. And it's his first time in a studio, and you know, these they've got to get to learn studio etiquette. So he's been looked after actually all the way through the show by my team next door, who have lovingly looked after him. Anyway, that's Humphrey. So I hope you managed to see him, and let me know what you think of him. Send me a message, 87222. For those of you who can't see him, he is a sort of pale coffee-coloured cream. He's a cream colour, and he looks just like a teddy bear, and he feels just like a teddy bear as well. Yeah, absolutely tiny. He's so confident though in the newsroom, just trotting off to see the boys down in the sports at Talk Sport, just having a little wander off. Off he goes. So there you go. Anyway, he's going to go to sleep now. Right, so back to the phone in now, although I can't concentrate because I've got little Fluffy in front of me. Anyway, so President Trump has confirmed that he wants to send American citizens to jail in El Salvador. President Berkeley says they're not planning to return the man that was been wrongfully deported there last month. Now, this is really interesting to me, the timing of both of these things, right? So basically, they've sent a man wrongfully, an innocent man, not a Venezuelan gangster, completely innocent. He had letters from judges to say that he wasn't guilty of anything and that he had the right to remain in the United States of America. 3 levels of courts now have told Donald Trump that they have to return him, that he's an innocent man and he must be returned. Imagine how you'd feel if that was you or someone you loved been sent there to one of these El Salvadorian hellhole prisons. And he's completely innocent. He's done nothing, and he's there in a cage with murderers and gang members. I suspect he can't be returned. That's my theory, but it is only my theory. But I suspect he can't be returned because he's probably already met his maker. But anyway, Donald Trump said no, even though the US Supreme Court has ruled that he must be returned to the United States, Donald Trump has said he would obey that. Now he's saying he won't obey that. Then he said that El Salvador was a sovereign state, not that that bothers him about Canada or Greenland or Panama. So he's now saying that he would have to get Berkeley to say, yes, Berkeley is in the White House today in the Oval Office, and he said, no, I'm not going to return him. So, not going to return him. I think this is a test case. And I think this is a test case because the US Supreme Court has ruled that Trump has to do this, and Trump is not going to do it. So what's to stop Trump from sending American citizens to an El Salvadorian prison? Because if the highest court in the land can't make Donald Trump do what it says, there's nothing that can stop him, right? So that's again just my theory, because I can't see any other good reason why this would happen. Why they've already admitted that it was an administrative error. The White House has already said it was an administrative error. So why not just fix it? Why not just fix it and bring him home? This, I believe, is a test case for sending US citizens to these prisons. Now, these aren't prisons as we would know. In fact, American prisons aren't prisons as we would know them. And many people think that American prisons are much harsher, which they are. A lot of them are much, much harder. That UK prisons are a soft touch, and this is why we've got the crime rate that we've got. But would we stop short in this country of saying, yes, you can deport British citizens to jails, God knows where, Russian gulags, who knows, right? Russian gulags or El Salvadorian hellholes. Would you object to that? Would you object to it? Because look, our prisons are full. We can't afford them. We can't afford to keep these prisoners. It costs 50 odd grand a year to keep just your basic prisoner. Somebody who's in a mental health prison, it's 250 grand a year. Why not round them up and send them off to a foreign prison where it would be a lot cheaper? And if you would do that, what kind of prisoner would you send there? We can't be doing this, can we? It's a new world order, isn't it? It's a new world. 0344 499 1000. You can message me as well. Put the word talk up front and then your message to 87222. He's nearly snoring. Jill has said, "Oh, Petrie, what a beautiful dog. I love him." I know, he's cute, isn't he? And little Humphrey says, "Kaz, he's just adorable. Thank you for showing him to us." And oh my goodness, Sam said, Humphrey is adorable. You see here that you got a fan club already. That didn't take long, did it? Couldn't care less. He's like Bailey. Bailey just snores all the way through my shows. Don't care. So anyway, that's Humphrey, and he'll be in for the rest of the week and next week as well, I think. Right, let's go to your calls now. It's very distracting having a furry baby here. Anyway, let's go to your calls now, and Andrew is in Bristol. Good morning. Andrew, what do you think of Trump's idea, and do you think that would be a popular idea here?
I think it would be a very popular idea here if Trump was going to send everybody to Guantanamo Bay. Wouldn't we love to see some of the illegal immigrants being sent somewhere else? And I know a lot of people would.
Well, yeah, a third safe country. I mean, that is already, many European countries are doing that now, aren't they? But the reason that Rwanda didn't work, because there was a question of whether it was considered safe. And that's the international law.
What amazes me, though, Petrie, is that these people have come through safe countries to get to us. So they should, in theory, have stayed in the safe countries they passed through before they reached.
There's no law that says that they have to. There's no rule that says that they have to.
I agree.
We just assume that that's what they do, but different countries have different draws. England and the English language is, of course, spoken around the world, and a lot of people think, well, I've got a little bit of English, I'll go there.
But there is a certain number of people in this country, and I'm not saying I'm necessarily agreeing with them, but they would like to see a lot of the illegal people that arrive in this country, and let's not mince words, they are illegal people breaking our laws.
They're not. It's not a law. There is no law. In fact, the only law is that the only place you can apply for asylum is on British soil. If we changed that and allowed them, so they're not breaking the law by coming here, the only thing that they're breaking is if once they're rejected, they remain, then they are illegal immigrants. They are not illegal.
Fair enough. I agree with you on that one. But people need to realise that we cannot take people
I agree. I agree. The numbers are outrageous, and it's pathetic that as an island we are unable to protect ourselves from that. It seems to me that it is a puzzle that is impossible for some reason to solve. But I completely agree with you.
We are an island, as you say, as you rightly say, and we've been an island, for 1,000 years. But the people that are coming here now, and people that are being set up with hotel rooms and iPhones and all the wonderful things that they get provided with, the rest of the
I still wouldn't want to be them.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's not fair to the people that are limited with their money here, and they're really trying very, very hard to survive from day to day with the increased costs of power, the increased costs of shopping, and these people are just coming here and they're getting treated like VIPs, and they're not VIPs. They're largely illegal immigrants who really want to. I can understand it. They want to improve their lives. That I can understand. In that sense, you can't blame them for doing what they do. But there are two questions to ask: how are they getting the money to get here in the first place? They can't earn thousands of pounds and then say, "Oh, we're going to get on a dinghy."
Often families will pool all of their money together to send one person, and that's why they often send a young man, because a young man is more likely to survive and be able to deal with the rigours of travelling in an uncertain journey in various different modes of transport.
And it just so happens that these young men of fighting age are over here, and they've said on many occasions when people have interviewed them that they're here to do things to women and to destroy this country.
I've never heard that.
I
have never heard
it's on record.
One illegal migrant in an interview situation saying, "I'm here to rape women and destroy the country."
Well, I don't know about rape women, but they do something.
Well, what were you thinking? They were going to buy them flowers? I mean, what,
it seems unfair to the vast majority of people in this country.
Of course it's unfair, but you don't blame the migrant, you blame the system that allows them easy access to the country. I think it's just too easy to go, "Oh, look at them, they're all," they're getting through system after system after system to get to this country, and the system is failing. We're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, and we're never going to get a different result. What we have to do is set up... What we have to do is set up means outside of this country that people can apply for asylum or refugee status, because at the moment the only place they can do that is when they get on British soil.
They apply for that. I mean, they might apply for asylum. Under what circumstances would they apply for asylum? They've got to have a good reason.
Of course they do. Do you know how many wars there are going on in the world at the moment? How many horrendous regimes there are? I mean, if you were living in Afghanistan, you'd want to get out of Dodge with that place. You'd want to get out of Iran. You'd want to get out of Ukraine. You'd want to get out of Russia. You'd want to get out of Korea. I mean, there are so many countries that are in an absolute mess at the moment, and most of our refugees at the moment are from Vietnam.
But here we are, a tiny little island, in comparison with the countries that these people are coming from. And we're going to sink under the weight of these people eventually. And I've got nothing against people coming over here and saying I'm claiming asylum because if I stay in my country I'm going to be killed or worse. But it just cannot go on at the levels that it's going on at the moment, and something has got to be done about it.
Yeah, but it's the system that's wrong.
Doing anything at all to do.
Well, it's my dog, sorry. The only thing that we can do that is different is to set up, places outside of the country in order for people to apply. Then they don't have to come here. And if they do come here, we can reject them immediately and say, why didn't you apply in these various places outside of Britain? But nobody's going to do that. I don't know why they won't do it, but they have to do that. And that's the only thing that can change.
That's a brilliant idea, Petrie, and it's almost as brilliant as the Australians do it on a numbers system. Mm. They say if you've got certain specifications, we'll let you in.
Well, not with asylum seekers. That's with normal migration, isn't it? Listen, Andrew, I've got to go. And I'm going to read a few more texts about Humphrey. It says Humphrey is absolutely adorable. Love his name. I hope you managed to get some sleep. Yeah. Not happening at the moment. And in between crate training. I'm worried about crate training though. I feel it's a bit mean. I'm a real soft touch. And that was from Catherine, and this is from Carol. So Humphrey, great name, adorable. Really needed a reason to smile. I'm sorry, Carol. Her lung cancer diagnosis goes from bad to worse, but trying to balance the negatives with other positives in life. Humphrey is 100% positive. So just look at this face. Oh, did you hear that? He's going, oh, look at that little face. Sound asleep. Oh. Can you hear his heartbeat? Oh, that's so sweet. Puppies have got very fast resting heartbeat. Which I was worried about. You've got your paw all over my microphone. There we go. Oh, he's sound asleep. I just want to sit here and hold him now. Going to take a quick break. Be back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello. That was weird. It was a sort of... anyway, a little bit of a technical thing here that my technical director is looking at me going, what are you talking about? Nothing wrong with that. There was. It went weird. Just say, watch it back. Anyway, it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. I've had to hand Humphrey over because I was just loving just sitting here holding him, really. Oh, Sam in Lancashire. Sam, my tech guys, just said the same thing. Sam said, read crate training, I've always used to put in something I wore of mine to snuggle up to. So that was Sam just saying the same thing there. And I've got a blanket, a towel actually, that his mum used to lie on as well. So that's sort of his safe place. But I'm just so concerned about crate training, because if I hear him cry, I'm not going to cope with it very well. But everybody tells me that crate training is the way to go, that is the best thing to do. And not forgetting that I've got an older dog who really can't be dealing with a puppy constantly. So he needs a break as well. And also when I go and have a shower, or when I go, if I have to pop to the shops, etc., etc., I want him to be in a safe space. The cat, by the way, the evil cat, terrified of him. Terrified of him. Absolutely won't come home. Edith, the evil, is scared to death of Humphrey. Ridiculous. Carol says, if Claire lays eyes on him, you've had it. He's scrumptious. He is the most adorable little thing. Anyway, I must stop talking about Humphrey. There are a lot of people listening going, I don't care. Anyway, let's talk about what I did want to talk about. Donald Trump now is looking to send American citizens to El Salvadorian prisons. And we've all seen images of these prisons, right? They are literally cages. They're a cage with, beds stacked high, and they're just, these prisoners are left in those cages, it would appear, for, most of the time. They're all got their heads shaved. They're all, we've all seen the image. I mean, it does look particularly horrendous. And look, a lot of the people that are in those prisons, we are told, 84,000 people have been arrested in El Salvador, are really bad people. They were drug dealers, they were gang members, they were murderers. And look, I don't have any more patience for people like that than you do. But I just wonder, there's a different set of rules, isn't there, for citizens of a country and people in America. Look, the jails in America are way worse than the ones that we have here. And a lot of you might think that we have a real soft touch system, that actually we treat our prisoners too well and we don't punish them harshly enough. And maybe that's why we have such a high recidivism rate. And maybe that's why the crime rate is so high in this country, and why we're running out of prison spaces. And it's not going to be long before somebody suggests that we send the worst of the worst prisoners that we have in this country to a foreign jail. The problem is that we're unable to get rid of the foreign prisoners that have got a prison to go to in their own country, let alone send them to a foreign jail. But would you accept that? Look, say we had a more populist government, say that government said, look, I've seen what Trump has done, I think it's a great idea, it'll cost us, 10 grand a prisoner to send them to El Salvador, right? That'll be it. So we can get rid of them, cost 50 grand to keep them in this country, 50 grand to keep them in prison here. What say you? And I think this would be quite a popular idea. Right or wrong, I think this would be a popular idea. Now, as far as foreign prisoners go, they should be serving all of their time in their own jail. As far as I'm concerned, they get found guilty in this country, flown out and stuck in a jail in the country that they've come from. That's what I would do with them. That's what I would do with them. Anybody who is in that bracket shouldn't be in our jails anyway, right? They shouldn't. But if it was a British person and they got sent to a jail like that, what would you say? I can't see. I honestly think it's going to be. It'll be put before us before too long. Okay. Oh, here we go. I love it when I get messages like this. Hosken. which is really polite, thank you. It's abundantly clear from your somewhat dismissive and condescending tone of voice that you do not live in an area that's plagued by large numbers of illegal aliens whose first loyalty is not to this country but to their original ethnic countries of origin. You need to take your head out of the sand and come to the real world. Goodbye. Goodbye, whoever. Oh, what a surprise, you haven't signed it. Oh, that's so unusual for somebody who's as stupid and pathetic as that. They normally sign it. Or don't they? I live in Shepherd's Bush, mate. Look it up. Go on, I dare you. Just do a little bit of a tappity-tappity on your computery-wootery, which is probably in your mother's basement, and look at Shepherd's Bush in West London. We've got several gangs there as well. Yeah. And I live literally just across the road from a council estate. A massive council estate. So, you want to talk about being condescending? I think that's you. You want to do a bit of research before you bother wasting your money sending a text that's both rude, wrong, and, well, it's not both, is it? Both rude and wrong. Goodbye. Anyway, let's talk to Chris. Chris is in Epsom. Hello, Chris.
Oh, good morning, Petrie.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
To be honest, I'm tired and fed up with all the conversations, that everything that's going wrong and the multitude of idiotic ideas that are being put forward. You're probably right. Somebody will suggest that.
I honestly believe it's not that far away.
It can't be further from what is needed. Oh, by the way, I know the bush very well. My grandfather started our family business on Gold Rock Road.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful paradise of no ethnic mix, apparently.
I
think it's one of the most ethnically diverse boroughs in London, actually.
When we left the bush in the late 80s.
Right.
That was it was changing then. There was a lot of immigration through the 60s.
A lot of immigration and a lot of gangs. I mean, there's still a couple of really big gangs.
There wasn't that sort of menace in the bush in those days. In the mid-80s, the trouble started.
Yeah.
We used to get broken into a couple of times a week. But that's a different story.
But one thing Shepherd's Bush is not is posh, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely, no one's ever called it posh.
He's getting mixed up with across the roundabout in Notting Hill.
Yeah, he's thinking Notting Hill. But a lot of people make that assumption about me, and it's just ignorance. It's just stupidity and ignorance. So what else is bugging you about this country at the moment? There's a lot of stuff going on, isn't there? I think a lot of people are really fed up with it.
Yeah, I'm first of all, my sympathies to the families of those 3 prison officers that were attacked.
Shocking.
And there's questions that need to be asked. How the hell did he get access to a kitchen or a library? They are the privileged jobs.
I agree.
Within a prisoner.
Yeah.
It turns out that he didn't use oil as was suggested.
Butter.
Nobody. This is the problem, that officers aren't trained well enough. And I had this discussion yesterday with a 30-year veteran who retired 8 years ago. Who happens to be a friend of mine. He took butter packs, the little individual butter packs you get to put, in your toast like you get in a hotel.
Yeah.
They have them in prison, and he was taking loads of them. And he took loads of them and then melted them down. That's what he used to throw on them.
I don't understand how he did. So there's little square butter packs with the metallic thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still metal, actually, metallic. So he melted down the butter.
He melted down the butter, and then he threw the melted butter, boiling butter in the face.
Oh, for God's sake!
Now, the first thing is he should never have had those access in the first place. The second thing is that buffer packs should be counted, because obviously they can be turned into a weapon, as they've just found out. Now, the thing that grates with me is that the Muslim Brotherhood in jails have pretty much taken over the inside of jails, which is why...
That's scary. Yeah, and they shouldn't be allowed to.
No, but they have, and the type of prison officers they've got now are not disciplined or trained enough to deal with the types of terrorists that we've got behind bars. What we actually need, and this is what we actually need, we actually need our own style within UK territories. I say UK territories because you could possibly use a UK island elsewhere. But UK territories, our own style Guantanamo Bay, that is run by a unit of the British Army from the Royal Military Police that have the training, discipline, and can't go on strike, and enjoy what they're doing. And all people convicted of a terrorist offence get put to there. That would be a deterrent, because people shouting for the death penalty, I'll tell you where I stand on that. If I thought that would work as a deterrent or a punishment, a mixture of both, I would be volunteering to put one behind the ear of every single one. It wouldn't bother me in the slightest.
Really?
Yeah, no, I'm ex-military. I've got no truck with dealing with a man that assists his brother in killing 26 people, most of them children that go to a music concert. I've got no problem.
They're cowards, absolute cowards.
I've got no problem getting him to meet his maker.
Yeah.
The problem is that their ideology that is so deeply rooted in that they will kill innocent children and themselves is the fact that they become their martyrs. They become famous and notorious within their own community. But also that the Palestinian Authority, that's just going to be given £1.6 million of British taxpayers' money, pays what's called the martyr's pension.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about this, but they actually, suicide bombers and the like, their families get paid a martyr's pension.
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah.
I watched a documentary with a Palestinian woman who proudly showed off the 3 pictures of her 3 sons that were all suicide bombers, and told the reporter they'd all gone to meet Mohammed and receive their virgins, and the pension she got from the Palestinian Authority was able to pay for this lovely apartment that she had, and if she could have any more sons or convince her daughters that she had to be suicide bombers, she would. And that's the problem you've got.
I mean, look, that sort of warped. I mean, this is why I'm not a fan of any religion, because on each religion has a very warped, extreme level. I mean, even Christianity has an extreme level of Christianity. That's an extreme level of Islam, and an extreme level of Catholicism. And you've got these extremes that are poison. They are absolute poison, and that's why I just think that all religion should be banned, frankly. And I think the world would be a lot better place if we didn't have it.
You're possibly right. I'm not I'm a born Church of England. I was made to go. I was born and brought up in Fulham as a young boy. I was made to go to church and Sunday school, or I wasn't allowed to play footy. Which is fair enough. I learnt my scripture.
Church of England's a very sort of gentle place, though, isn't it? If you went to the extremes of Christianity, and you see these extreme Christian groups in the United States that want to take rights away from women, they want women not to be able to vote anymore. They want, that's an extreme Christian doctrine. That women are not as good as men, and that is across all religions. Guess why? Because all religions were written by men. So, that is, that's why.
Yes, I don't disagree with that. I've seen documentaries on the snake charmers, and you remember that we used to see a lot of the one of those Christian groups that
turned up at gay funerals.
Yeah. And funerals of soldiers and things like that. Yeah. Absolute scumbags, scum of the earth. These people who call themselves Christian and behave in that way. Evil, violent, nasty people. And they will blame religion on it. And that's what happens. Sick people will find a doctrine that matches their sickness, and then they say, it's because of my religion. And often they are just sick, evil people who want to do sick, evil things. And so they attach it to a religious ideal that will allow them to do that and look good doing it. And that's the problem that we have. Chris, good to talk to you. I've got to go because I'm massively late for a break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is Talk and it's Petrie here with you. I've got loads of messages I'd like to read out, many of them about Humphrey. What do we think of the name Humphrey? I love the name Humphrey. Some people go, why do you call him Humphrey? I think it's just very cool. In fact, you might be old enough to remember, watch out, there's a Humphrey about. Do you remember that? First prize goes to the person who can tell me what that was advertising without looking it up. Watch out, there's a Humphrey about. Right, text me what that was. 87222. What was it for? And do you remember it? Because that's what I always say now at home. I go, watch out, there's a Humphrey about. I love the name Humphrey. And my friend Timmy just goes, I'm free, constantly at him. Anyway, hi Petrie, like Chris from Epsom, I'm absolutely fine shooting dead any cowardly terrorist, or I'm absolutely fine with the death penalty. Terrorists are nothing but cowards, I agree with that. And I'm absolutely fine either putting them to death or dropping them from 5,000 feet into the ocean. These kinds of people have no right to life. It may not be popular opinion, but that's my opinion. Either that, as I... because of their warped ideology, they can't be a deterrent. That I agree with. That I agree with. And it's this warped ideology, and it's this. I think what they are, I genuinely do. I think they're sick, violent people who seek out a reason, a justification for that sickness, for that evilness. And if they can find it, and you can always find it in religion, all religions. I think probably apart from Buddhism, which isn't really a religion, it's more of a psychology, a philosophy, sorry. So I do think that That's what I believe. I believe they are evil people who would try to justify their evil behaviour by saying it's in my scripture. It's that's you know, I've been told that by my God, and that's what I think. That's the way round I think it is, because there are a lot of people who are, there are millions and millions and millions of people who are Muslims who, when you read about Islam and the gentle nature of the religion, it is really beautiful and very, very close to Christianity, if you believe in Christianity. But of course, the scriptures in there that will be taken out of context, they will be warped, they were written 1,500 years ago, you know, at a different time, in a different state of violence and different language and different meaning. They've also been translated many times. So original meanings in a lot of cases have gone. But there are a lot of people in Christianity who will use Leviticus to say, oh, you know, man shall not lie down with man, and therefore homosexuality is against God. And it's really interesting because in the next paragraph, you shouldn't eat shellfish, or you shouldn't wear mixed clothing. So I'll often say to somebody, oh, what are you wearing? Oh, I'm wearing a sweatshirt and a pair of jeans. Oh, well, that's against God. You know, you can pick and choose, and that's what happens to these terrorists. They pick and choose. And there are plenty of Christian fundamentalists in America. In fact, it's getting worse in America because of Project 2025. These Christian fundamentalists who are absolutely evil to the core. Evil to the core. And they choose the bits of the Bible to justify their nastiness, their evilness. And all these Christians going, yeah, get rid of all these poor people. They're totally against Jesus and totally against the writings of the Old Testament. I mean, it's just, but also in the Old Testament, you've got slavery is a thing. That's fine, apparently, according to God. And you can, you know, as long as you don't kill your slave, or if your slave doesn't die within 3 days, then it's not so bad. All of these things are in the Bible. It's one of the most violent. If you've never read it, read it. It's so violent. And I just think anybody who would believe that, or just pick and choose the bits that they believe, there's something wrong with that. And this is what happens with terrorism on all forms, or all types of terrorism, not just Islamic terrorism. They pick and choose the bits that justify their evil behaviour. It's as simple as that, in my view. And I'm entitled to it, so there's nothing you can do about that. Well done, Gary. That's another reason I called him Humphrey. So Gary said, yeah, watch out, there's a Humphrey about. Do you remember? They were drinking milk, and a red and white straw would just come in from the side to try and steal your milk. So you had to drink your milk quickly, otherwise a Humphrey would steal it. So that's Gary saying that. And Jules says milk. Jules in Bristol, the colour of Humphrey. Exactly that. So yes, it was a milk advert. That ages all of us, doesn't it, really? Watch out, there's a Humphrey about. Anyway, Latoya says, is that your new puppy? I cannot. I know. And another one from Gary says, evening Petrie, I'd much rather have an hour with you and the gorgeous Humphrey than talk about that vile creep of a man Trump, and I'm being polite. Honestly, Humphrey is adorable, and hearing his little heartbeat put a huge smile on my face. I didn't know you could hear it, because I couldn't hear it through the microphone, obviously. Followed by an oh. And Elle says, ignore them, Petrie. Oh, I try to ignore, but you know what, Elle? Occasionally, I just have to bite back, because some people are just so dumb, stupid, ignorant, and they make up their minds about stuff they know nothing about, and I just have to say that they're talking rubbish. I'm going to take a break now, but I'll be back.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Kaz has sent me a message saying, I do believe we need to see a picture of Edith. I'll sort one out for tomorrow, Evil Edith. I mean, it'll have to be one of the old pictures, because like I said, she's done a runner, because she's scared of Humphrey, which is hilarious, because she literally could take on a fox. But no, little tiny Humphrey, she's scared of him. Anyway, a couple more messages that I want to read out, and then I'm going to go back to the phones. Oh, and Elle sent me a picture of, is that a poodle? A little black poodle. Very cute. Oh, I love dogs. Why can't there be a religion? If there was a religion that was based on dogs, I'd definitely be part of that. And oddly, dog is God spelt backwards, so I reckon that dogs are due a religion, and I'll head that up. I definitely head that up. Malcolm from Clifton, is it Clifton? In Somerset, said the tariffs are going to be paid by the US citizens because the importers are going to pass on the increased cost. Yes, exactly. I, for one, have stopped buying American products and services. I would encourage others to do the same. It may be a small gesture, but if we all did it, the effect would be enormous. Malcolm, I agree with you, and I have done the same thing. I am now checking all of my products for when they run out, and seeing that unfortunately quite a lot of them are American things, like Colgate toothpaste or Tresemme hair shampoo that I use. They're all, once they've been used up, I am not buying them again. And as you said, it's a small gesture, but do you remember with South Africa, we all refused to buy South African products, and that was our tiny little bit of rebellion. So I'm totally with you in trying to stop using American. I mean, I'm even going to have to give up Heinz. I know. Heinz baked beans and Heinz tomato ketchup, I can't bear it. But I will give it up. I will. And Malcolm, I 100% support and endorse you on that. I absolutely do. Gary has said, I always enjoy when you have fellow Scotsman John Boothman on. He is brilliant. I love John. He makes me laugh how he consistently manages to add, you know, to every sentence. I love him. He's just great. Susan says, El Salvador prisons, a brilliant location for the debris of illegal immigration. And this one says, why are you so anti-Trump? Interesting. I haven't got long left on the programme, but there are very many reasons that I'm anti-Trump. Hundreds of them. And each one of them is a really good reason. The question would be, Martin, why are you not anti-Trump? That would be the question, I think. And this one, I did not know this. Who is it sent this? Let me just double check. Clayton. It says, on your Wednesday night show when you were talking about de-extincting the direwolf, that was brilliant, that was, I loved that. You mentioned a couple of times you'd like to see the duck-billed platypus brought back. I did, you're absolutely right. Just one problem though, they aren't extinct. Are they not? I thought they were extinct. I want one then. I want one as a friend for Humphrey. They're just ridiculous creatures. Definitely would like a duck-billed platypus. Anyway, we've sort of gone off on a tangent and started talking about religion because we were talking about terrorism, and for me, religion, people will reverse engineer their evilness into certain parts of religious texts. That's my theory anyway, because you have so many people who are part of structured religion that are not evil terrorists, right? You know that, don't you? That the majority of the billions of people that are Muslim are not terrorists, right? So the only way I can think about it is that people reverse engineer themselves, and they go, right, I really want to go and murder people and little girls at a concert. How can I justify that? I know, I'll choose some random text from a book which they've never read. And also with the Quran, you've got all sorts of other books surrounding the Quran. So you have to read the Quran and all these other papers at the same time. It takes years and years of study to understand the Quran, and probably the same is true with the Bible and other religious texts as well. But people, I think, just pick the bits that suit them. Like homophobics, they choose the bits that suit them, and then they ignore the bits that don't. So yeah, and also I'm not sure I can really go for a God that doesn't think that paedophilia is worth being in one of the 10 Commandments. Well, no, just a theory. Right, let me just talk to Patrick quickly from Nottingham. Hello, Patrick.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well. I often get called Patrick.
Well, Paddy to my friends, and I like to think you'd be my friend.
I will call you Paddy. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Paddy, but anyway,
yeah.
So I just switched on to talkTV. I seen the headline: should we deport criminals like the US? Yes, absolutely. For sure.
British
They're
criminals,
aren't they? They're unsavoury characters. Right.
So British criminals, I'm not talking about foreign criminals. I mean, I think all foreign prisoners should serve their time in foreign prisons, right? I think they should be sent.
Deport the British ones as well.
Really?
Australia again.
Really?
In Tasmania. We did it years ago, didn't we? We did it to our own
Well,
people.
we did it in Australia, POMs, yeah.
Why will we be overrun with foreigners and not deport them when we used to deport our own people for stealing apples?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Absolutely right, we did. I think the idea of deporting people to Australia probably was terrible at the time, but the last laugh really is on us, isn't it? Really, because that worked out okay. But to deport a British prisoner into an El Salvadorian hellhole, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I'd probably come through. I'd soldier on.
Really?
And come out.
Do you think it would work as Do you think it would work as a deterrent, Paddy?
I think, yeah. I think deportation is the way to go. Trump he's set his stall out, hasn't it? And he's doing his thing, and
But he's also sent at least one, I think it's at least 2 innocent men to an El Salvadorian hellhole, which is unforgivable and won't bring them back.
Well, there's injustice in the world, isn't there?
Oh no, but that's not a good answer. The innocent. What if it was you? What if it was you? What if you were sent? They shaved your head and sent you to a prison in El Salvador with gang members, and you'd never done anything wrong, or your family, or.
That's unfortunate, yeah.
That's the price of doing.
Unfortunate, but we're talking about he's the president of the United States. We've got our prime ministers, and
I can't ever see.
To admire that he's looking after the US of A, and they love him. They voted him in. It's the biggest comeback. He's done his thing, Yeah. And
it wasn't the majority. It wasn't. It was the
we was proud of.
Yeah.
I can't remember one.
Yeah, but he's everyone says he was look, he won the election apparently, although Yeah. There's lots of rumours going around that there were a lot of computer issues, but it was only 70. There's 350 million. There was only about 77 million that voted him in. So, it wasn't the majority. It was just the majority of the votes, the way that the votes are counted. And the same with Keir Starmer, right?
Is your name Petra?
Yeah.
Petra, listen. You have yourself a lovely evening. Don't worry about.
Don't worry about anything. Do you know what? I'm not worrying about anything because I've got a gorgeous puppy.
Don't worry.
So, all right, Paddy, you have a good one. Jill, I'm sorry I didn't have time to talk to you, but I know that I want to talk to you. We're going to do this conversation again. So please do call then, or we'll keep your number, because I think this is a really interesting conversation that I would really like to have. Jill has phoned in about religion. She's saying, I'm not religious, but my friend is Catholic. The problem is mankind, not religion. And listen,